Why am I putting on a one-woman show? Why not? It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I decided to do it now. My first year at school, I bought an Annie wig because I wanted to put on a one-woman show of Annie. I got wrapped up in school and being at college for the first time, and I just never got to it. I tried to put it on this year, but I couldn't get the rights to the music or a space to put my show on, and it's a sore subject. But I deserve justice. My school really did me dirty my junior year, and I need my voice to be heard. So I decided to tell my story in the form of a one-woman show. Because like I said, why not? Thanks. Okay. Stage is set. I've always loved performing. I played trumpet since I was in 4th grade. In high school, I played the sousaphone and euphonium, and I still play the euphonium now in jazz band. Kind of a waste of money, though, with the trumpet. It's just sitting in my house right now. I was never a good dancer, but for some reason, I was always on stage dancing. I would do lip sync battles or talent shows or weird summer camp stuff, but I absolutely loved it. Because I could act like a fool and no one would care. I think more than anything, though, I loved being silly, and I still do today. As a kid, I would dress up for any occasion or any reason. I would wear sweatbands that gave me powers, or ask my mom to draw a scar on my forehead every day before school. I wore a Finn from Adventure Time hat to my 10th birthday party, and I still wear it today. So the only issue that I had with putting on this one-woman show was that I'd never seen or written one before, but I figured how hard could it be? After I wrote my first draft of my script, I sent it to my sister. She's a super amazing writer, and she reads and edits like all of my papers.
Hey!
Hey Sophie, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Did you get the chance to read my script?
Oh, yeah, I did.
And what did you think?
It sucked.
It turned out to be much harder to write a one-woman show without ever having seen one. So I had to do some extensive research. I watched a one-woman show and read a few monologues. I also watched a ton of female stand-up comedians. I noticed a pattern in the performances of most of these comedians. There was talk about, wage gap and being a mother, but it was mostly just sex talk.
If you love sucking dick, it's because you're good at it. And if you don't like it, if you're like, I hate blowjobs, it's because you're bad at it. You're really bad at it.
First of all, I respect her approach to her relationship. She's married to her high school sweetheart. They've been married for over 20 years. She told me that she gives him a blowjob every day.
Now that I'm older, it's so easy to be good at sex, isn't it? Oh my gosh. All you have to do is approach it with the enthusiasm of a child. Just put everything in your mouth.
You can go down on women properly, but you fucking can't. Men cannot go down on women properly. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Society has let you get away with it.
And I don't proclaim to be a professional dick sucker, but I can tell you what I know about sucking dick. See, you don't have to suck dick good. You just gotta suck dick often.
When I was doing my research, I found this article called Women's Comic Voices. Makes sense. By Andrea Greenbaum. Anyway, there was a part that talked about how female comics mostly just talk about sex or their bodies or their relationships, and male comics can really just talk about anything they want, or external things, as she calls it. It just seemed like women would only be found funny if they talk about sex or their bodies and stuff. Obviously, there are some female comics who don't talk about sex or their bodies, but this kind of material just seems expected of them. There is such a strong connection between women and their bodies that the audience almost anticipates and wants the female comedians to talk about it. Females' bodies are viewed as their area of expertise. Therefore, when they don't talk about their bodies or sex, the audience is left disappointed in a way, and anything else they talk about isn't as funny. It's not really for me. I don't really like talking about sex. My go-to jokes are poop jokes. They're always a hit. So my idea for my one-woman show was to talk about my relationship with water. I start off by talking about how I've always lived a 5-minute walk from the ocean and always loved the water, but then I transition into how I kept being put into dorms that flooded and how my relationship with water changed negatively. When I retell this story, I'm gonna get emotional. I'll laugh and tell jokes, but I'll also get upset and yell, probably. I'm already a pretty sensitive person. I've been called a crybaby my whole life, and it's pretty easy to make me cry. One time I cried while watching the Hunger Games because Katniss reminded me of my sister. My mom tells me it's okay to be sensitive. She sends me DMs on Instagram sometimes with inspirational messages about how it's okay to cry and stuff like that. And it's not that I don't believe her when she says it's okay to be sensitive. I know it is, but I'm just nervous about what the audience will think. I found this story to be emotional and upsetting, but would the audience? Or would they just think I'm being overdramatic and yelling about nonsense? I didn't really want to add to the stereotype that all women are over-emotional and that not be taken as seriously. In Catherine Lutz's article titled Emotion, Thought, and Estrangement, Emotion as a Cultural Category, she discusses how emotion, particularly in women, is associated with irrationality, subjectivity, the chaotic, and other negative characteristics. This idea that women are more emotional than men has been a sexist stereotype for a very long time. So not only does it affect society's perception of women as a whole, but this notion that women are very emotional makes any point that they're trying to make seem less credible and undermines its significance. And because women are viewed as irrational due to their emotions, and they can't talk about things like politics, the economy, or other external things. I don't want people to think that I'm being overdramatic or anything. This story is really important to me, and I don't want that validation to be taken away just because I'm a woman and they think I'm being oversensitive. So for my poster idea, I want to have me floating on my back in a pool while fully clothed. Since the show is about both my relationship to water and my dorm room flooding, I wanted to incorporate water. I wanted the poster to be funny, but also kind of deep, you know? Being in a pool while fully clothed is always funny, at least to me it is. But my facial expression tells a completely different story. It shows how I was feeling when my dorm kept flooding during the school year. The title? Sinking. So I performed in Blunt Auditorium, which was in Buckman Hall, one of the academic buildings on campus. It was a decently sized space. The stage was a little small, but that was okay. It definitely wasn't my first choice, though. I wanted to have it in McCoy Theater, but after a month of trying, I got tired and just gave up. In the end, the stage and space ended up being really great. In fact, I think I preferred a smaller space. It would make me feel more comfortable, I think. I mean, I had to practice my script in my car because I was going to be embarrassed if my suite mates heard me practicing in my room. Like I said, this was going to be my first time putting on a one-woman show, and I was pretty nervous. I know I said that I love to perform, and I still do, but this is completely different. I was going to be putting on a personal show in front of a group of people who I really did not know. Well, at least I knew some of them. When I was little, I would dress up all the time, just because I felt like it. But ever since puberty, I've become a lot more self-conscious, and then I left the dress-up life behind. I'm just extremely self-conscious of my body, and I have been for a long time. But I know I'm not the only one who feels this way about their body. With the internet and television, most people are self-conscious about their bodies, or at least aware of them. Skinny women and muscular men being shoved in our faces in various advertisements, commercials, and TV shows. It's hard to feel good about our bodies if we don't look like that. In this journal article I read for research called It's the Image That's Imperfect, Advertising and Its Impact on Women, it discusses exactly what I've been saying. How we can't help but dislike our bodies because of the highly unattainable bodies we see online. It says, when women look at advertisements showing beautiful female models, they tend to be less satisfied with their own attractiveness. Well, duh. We live in a society that is so obsessed with weight loss and diet culture, when we should be living in a society that accepts all body types. I know it's a lot easier said than done, though. But a good start would be using fewer skinny and muscular bodies in advertising and modeling, and instead using all body types. There are already some companies that do this, but the amount of advertisements that still display these skinny bodies is astounding. Some companies claim to be a part of the body positivity movement, which started in 2012, but they still just show models who are skinny, which isn't necessarily healthy. The body positivity movement accepts all bodies, regardless of size, shape, skin tone, gender, and physical abilities. I think more than anything, though, I'm just nervous to be on stage alone. Like I said before, this is a personal story, and I'm putting myself in a pretty vulnerable position, which is something that I'm not used to doing. I think a huge reason that I'm nervous about being on stage alone is that I will be the only thing the audience can look at. I'd never really found myself to be an extremely beautiful or attractive person, so I never felt like I was the one who caught people's eyes. But if I'm alone on stage, then the audience will have no choice but to look at me. I don't think I'm particularly easy to sexualize, but I'll be wearing a one-piece bathing suit on stage. With pants, but I won't have a big baggy shirt to cover my shoulders and breasts, so I already will feel a lot more exposed than I'm used to. When I was doing research for my show, another article I stumbled upon actually talked about this. I was worried about being objectified and sexualized while on stage alone, but this article, called Woman's Performance Art, Feminism and Postmodernism, said that I really shouldn't be too concerned. With a man on stage with me, I would be the object in comparison to the man on stage. But by eliminating the man, I can't be deemed an object because there's no superior being to compare myself to. So by getting rid of a man to share the stage with, or any other person for that matter, I'm also deconstructing societal norms and representations of woman. I genuinely can't tell how I feel about this approach, though. I mean, it's great that I won't be objectified, but am I truly only able to not be objectified if I'm alone? Having a man present should not determine my worth or how easily I am objectified. This idea also comes back to the concept of the male gaze introduced by Laura Mulvey. When a man is present with a woman, the audience looks at her through his gaze, leading the woman to be sexualized and diminished. But even when a man isn't present, are the spectators still looking at her through this male gaze? Is the heterosexual man the intended audience of this performance? My show is most definitely not intended for any specific group or person, and certainly not the heterosexual man. But that doesn't eliminate the chance that I still might be objectified just by being watched while alone on stage. Because even if we don't realize it, we have been trained to look at women through the male gaze. The male gaze is used for various popular movies, TV shows, advertisements, and more, so much that it has not only become normalized, but we don't even realize that the male gaze is being implemented. So you don't necessarily have to be a heterosexual man to look at a woman through the male gaze. I didn't realize this until now, but I think my fear of being judged by other people has taken away the enjoyment of what I really love doing, being silly. When I was little, I really didn't care about what people thought. I did what I wanted to do. But as I grew older, I started to care more. It's kind of like Adam and Eve and how they ate the apple from the Garden of Eden. They didn't really care or notice that they were naked, but after, they became conscious of their nudeness and covered up. I think I've been feeling naked for a really long time. But over the last few years, I think I've definitely cared less about what people think. Because if my fear of judgment is going to hold me back from doing what makes me happy, then screw the people who I think will judge me. It's obviously easier said than done, but it is something I've been focusing on over the last few years. I guess all I could do is just try to love myself regardless of what people think. This includes my peers at school, but it also includes what I see on the internet. I have to stop comparing myself to the models that I see online. Again, it's much easier said than done, but I think that the moment I stop caring about what other people think or how I look, I'll be a whole lot happier with myself and my life. I know that these individual changes won't necessarily help the greater public or society as a whole. It won't eliminate the sexualization of female-identifying people, the male gaze, or any other sexist norm that we readily accept in society. But I'm also not here to offer a solution, because I'm not sure that there is one solution. I believe that the first step to any noticeable change is to first realize that we are partaking in these sexist behaviors and mentalities. The media plays a huge role in how we perceive the world, and sometimes we don't realize how we've been influenced. By noting and correcting these behaviors in ourselves as well as others, change may begin to happen. From there, we can then start thinking about bigger structural changes that can be made. But first, we must start small.